Good afternoon, beautiful beings of light. Welcome to the Wisdom Circle. Hey, ladies, welcome today. You can see we have Wisdom Seeker Joan, SunPsychic Jean, Kigaru Spiritual Journeys, Terry Suzuki, of course, Heather and me. And joining us shortly will be our sweet Terry Lee, pure visionary psychic medium. She'll be here shortly. Computer issues, snow, you know how that goes. But that's okay. We can begin without her. For those of you that are new to the Wisdom Circle, we do this once a month. Each of us picks 2 subjects a year, and you'd be amazed how hard that is to discuss on our month. So, my name's Priscilla, and these are the wonderful women that have joined us. We're starting our 3rd year. This is going into our 3rd year. I can't believe it. It's just flown
Second year
by.
of this though, isn't it?
It's 3rd.
Oh, really?
This is episode 26.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, it's the 3rd year.
Hard to believe, isn't it? And we actually celebrate our 3rd year anniversary of the Crone Zone on the 22nd. And I didn't know any of you ladies except for Heather before that. And I can't believe the friendships that we have made over these 3 years. It's just so fun, so incredible. There are no readings today, ladies. We're here to share and discuss spiritually related theories, experiences, information, and perspectives from diverse backgrounds and points of view. We hope to make you laugh, to feel included, and maybe gain some insight or perspective on what is happening to you on your spiritual journey. Our individual paths are unique. No 2 of us are the same. Boy, isn't that the truth?
That's why we have good
Please take
discussions.
what resonates and leave the rest. We're all here on our journey learning, and we appreciate you being here and hope that we can help you on your journey. And today, all of our details are in the description of all these ladies' YouTube sites, websites, whatever they have. You can book readings with each of them, and they're all fantastic readers. I can guarantee you because I've read with all of them. Today's show is about reinventing yourself. And I don't know about you, but I've had several reinventions of my lifetime. And today's episode is Wisdom Seeker Joan's presentation, and she's our leader for the day. So I will turn it over to her. And there's going to be lots of group discussion. And can we please have lots of information from our viewers, the chatters? We love your input. Feel free to join in. All caps and emojis, because we all have aging eyes.
We all wear glasses too.
Yeah, all of us are wearing glasses. That's true. So just to say some hellos out there, Jen Bowles, Visionary Gal, welcome. Lisa Davies, Evelyn DeMangles, Bernadette. I'm sorry, Bernadette, we're not doing any readings. Joyful Journey. Who did I miss? Maria Moreno, Flower Beauty Peacock Rainbow. Oh, I love that name. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And then I guess I will take it over. Oh, look, it did it on purpose, like it was supposed to.
Oh, great. Well, wonderful. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for coming. Today, I wanted to talk about reinventing yourself, which on the surface of it doesn't seem like a real spiritual topic, but like everything, spirituality can be folded into this. And I thought about it because one time I was out for a walk with a friend, and I don't remember what we were talking about. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, Joan, you've reinvented yourself so many times. It's just not funny." And it kind of took me aback because I just kind of thought, well, I've just sort of lurched from one thing to another and just tried to keep my balance. But it got me thinking a little bit more about what it means to reinvent yourself. And Priscilla, if you could put up the slideshow, we can start in on that. So reinventing yourself, it's about taking control of some aspect of yourself or your life, big or small, and making it a better reflection of who you really are. And if you could move it to the next slide, please. So first, we're just going to say, what does it really mean to reinvent yourself? And it often involves a significant change in identity, behavior, a career change, or a change in your personal goals. It can mean shedding old habits and adopting new ways of thinking. And it might be driven by personal growth, a fresh start, like a move or something, or a job change, or adapting to challenges. So, sometimes it's internally motivated, but when I think about adapting to challenges, all those people who have suffered through the fires, they're going to have to reinvent their own lives, and they didn't have any time to think about it. So it can happen in lots of different ways. But a lot of times it involves evolving to realign your priorities with your values and your true self. So it's nice when you do have the time to think about how you're going to do this. What do you want to do? And I'll just start with one story, and then I want to hear other people's stories about a time when you reinvented some area of your life. And one of mine happened several years ago now. I like to go out for walks, oftentimes listen to YouTube at the same time. And this one summer, it was like not every time, but I bet you a half dozen times I'd be out for a walk and I'd see a dead bird. And many of you know that I just love birds. And so it was really disconcerting to see a dead bird. And there was a crow, and there was a sparrow, and there was a pigeon or two. And it was like, what is this all about? And I had to do some thinking about it. And I think and at this time I had retired, and I did some volunteer work for a nonprofit, and then they hired me, and then it was getting to be too much like work again. And there were problems and all of that. And I thought, do I want to stay here or not? And then one day I was walking down this little, it's an alleyway, and it has like cobblestones and everything, and a big building on this side with ivy and trees over here. And a robin flew out of the bushes, through the bushes, and hit the brick wall, and it landed dead at my feet. And I thought, okay, I'm getting the message. And I finally put it together that this was like, no, I don't want to be doing this. I was being supportive and helping somebody else's vision, but this is a time in life where it became clear that I need to focus on my own vision and what I want for my life, and not just supporting a business doing something else. So then I thought about, well, what do I really want to do? What is my vision? And I thought back about the last couple of years prior to that, and I remembered being in a psychic development class, and this was like before we all got together, and it was like an in-person one, and then you have practice sessions with your people, and then after the class was over, it was hard to find anyone to practice with. So at one point, I found out that, and I was working as a freelance writer at the time, and one of my main clients, I found out that she was kind of into this type of thing. So I took a big risk to ask this person who was responsible for 50% of my income at the time, I've taken these classes and I need somebody to practice this on. Could I give you a psychic reading? And she was into it. She was very open to it. So she sent me some questions. I tuned in, sent back what I got. And then she sent me her responses because she's, busy. This is all by email. And there were
cool.
7 questions, and bing, 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 bing. Every one of them was a huge hit. And in ways that I never would have been able to determine. And it really meant a lot to her. A lot of it was about some loved one who had passed and everything. And when I got her response, it just blew me out of the water. And I went for a walk, and I was like floating on air. And I thought, yes, this is what I want. This brings me joy. I want more joy in my life. And that's when I started sifting around, and eventually I found this community and online psychics and all of that. And so anyhow, I think I tell that story because it was transformative, and it helped me reinvent that area of my life. And also because I listened to the signs, it moved me from doing something that wasn't completely in alignment with what I was needed to something that really has been fulfilling. So how about you ladies? Are there times when you've kind of reinvented your life, yourself, or an aspect of your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jean.
I'm still thinking of mine.
Okay.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Well,
That's okay. Think. And that's okay. I'm sure Terry and I do.
Yeah,
Terry's
I
got one.
can talk about it a little bit. Well, I was really blessed in that my dad, when I have some learning difficulties, and when I would get my report card, often, they weren't always the best, but I just always love and remember all the time, anytime I have to make a big change, I hear my dad's voice saying, Terry, it's the start of a new quarter. You can always turn over a new leaf. You can be a whole new Terry. It's okay. And that always has made me feel more comfortable with change. But I'd have to say the biggest change, I mean, we've all gone through so many different changes. I mean, from teenager to married woman
Oh,
to
absolutely.
business owner to student to worker, and now I'd say the biggest change was learning how to use these gifts, going from worker to employed a whole different way. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So that's interesting, and I like that, and I like now I get a whole different kind of support doing this from the other side. So that's cool.
It's so interesting.
Mhm.
We've got somebody back.
yeah,
Devices.
I thought of mine, if you don't mind, if I can go.
Do, please.
What I was thinking of is when I needed to reinvent myself is when I moved here to Maryland, and it was for my husband's job, and we didn't know anybody here. And it was just my husband and I, and we had to rely on each other 100%. Like there was no backup. Where I grew up and where I before moving here in Philadelphia, there's aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, high school kids, neighbor kids, friends of my brothers and cousins. I mean, there was people everywhere. So if you ever needed anything or got stuck on the side of the road or locked your keys in the car, there was somebody right around the corner always available for you. And when I moved down here, I actually did lock my keys in my trunk, and the feeling of me wondering, oh my gosh, I hope I can reach my husband. He's the only one that could, and we realized it's just who we can depend on. It's just one person. And it's a huge difference. I come from a very large family, and there's always somebody around to rely on, or to, bum a ride off of, or to ask for some money, always somebody.
Always.
And it really changed me into an independent thinker, and I relied on myself. I developed this self-confidence where I was number 6 out of 7, so I was always one of the youngest. I really didn't have a lot of responsibilities because all my older sisters took care of everything. I just followed the leader. And when I moved down here, I had to start making decisions for myself, start sticking up for myself, deciding what I wanted in my own home, how I wanted things to look. And I really had to find out who I was. And I have to say it was a struggle. It was not easy. And I did not trust myself, but I grew. And it was through those pains, it was through the uncertainty, it was through the not knowing what would happen next, and the kind and loving support of my husband. But it was me developing me, creating me,
Right.
and allowing me to emerge, and making mistakes and going down the wrong road, and then having to turn around and go, metaphorically, and starting something over. And I have changed and become more of myself, more authentic and unapologetic, and much more confident in my own self. That I think that if I were still at home with all of my sisters and cousins and friends. And, it may not have been as easy for me to reinvent myself, because I do feel like I get treated a little differently when I go back home. I'm like, I'm SunPsychic Jean now. Like,
I'm
I'm
not
not
baby sister anymore.
I am not baby sister anymore. I
That's
have
really
grown.
interesting. That's very similar to how, to me, growing up, I was 4 or 5. I didn't really have any responsibilities other than making my bed and keeping my room tidy, and that was about it. But yeah, you have all that family around you and you move and then you don't. You have to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
That is a great example.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that in the same way as when I moved to England. I knew nobody in England. No one, except for the people that employed me, and I really didn't know them either. Just had visited with them a few times. So I had to reinvent, and you're right, you grow so much when there's no one else to depend on. Now, I met my husband about 5 months after I moved to the UK. So I ended up having somebody to show me the ropes and help me find things, but oh my God, thank God for roundabouts. You can just keep going until you get the right. I was lost all the time because I was used to grids, north, south, east, and west streets. Can you get any easier than that? Well, back in the old country, they don't do that. They didn't know about that back in the day. Hey, Terry Lee, so glad you could make it. How's
Oh,
the snow?
Welcome.
thank you, and sorry to be late, but I'm here.
We're just
Glad to be
you're
with you all.
here.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Terry, do you have any examples that come to mind about times when you've reinvented yourself?
Oh, honey, how much time have we got?
I know, right? How many times would you like to talk about?
When I saw the subject, I was just like, wow, I could write a book. Yeah, lots of times. Lots of times. I'll try to run through a few. I grew up in a very traumatic household. I was responsible for taking care of my baby sister and, making sure that if there was anything rough going on in the house, I had to take care of her. So, but at the same time, living in a volatile environment, which meant that I had to be kind of sensitive to when things were going to happen and that kind of thing. Then as I grew older, I used that confidence in other things. I got a job early because it got me out of the house.
Yeah.
And I was able to enter a world where I could kind of reinvent myself as this. I actually worked for a country club, and so that was really interesting. I had a lot of positions, and I really grew and came a long way with that. Then later on, I got pregnant and had to get married. So that was a lovely evolution. Terrifying, but having the experience of having to be responsible when I was very young kind of played in pretty well to that. So, and it was a very rough and rocky marriage. However, I was able to get a job at Boeing. And then that was a huge evolution for me to step up into that world. And I worked with the engineers there. And that gave me huge confidence. And I began to really understand. It took me a while, though, to get through and evolve from that realm of being raised in the environment I was, so that I was an enabler. I was someone who had to learn all about that because my mom taught me so well, and bless her heart. And so as I began to understand that, then I was able to become a single mom with 3 kids.
Wow.
And that was another evolution, another remaking of how I felt about myself, how to raise my kids, how to fit into the world like that. And then I eventually moved back to Idaho and I had a lot of computer experience. So I got a lot of excellent jobs, felt very, very confident. Met interesting people, joined a band, had fun doing that. So the real creative me eventually I was able to bring that real person out and that real personality out and understand how to deal with fear and have faith and to reason things out. So, and of course I carried spirituality with me that whole time, knowing that that was my base and that I would always be okay. So that's just a few. Like I said,
Well, it's a good point, though. Marriage is a reinvention. Divorce is a reinvention. Having a baby is a reinvention. You don't think about how many times you reinvent yourself, do you, really?
no.
Yeah.
And definitely widowhood, and that's taught me a lot of things.
Hadn't that. Absolutely.
After my husband died, not too long after, I drove out to Montana to see my brother, and on the way back, I thought, if I can do this, it's only like 700 more miles. I could drive to Mexico, and so I did. That first year, I packed up the car. I thought, okay, I'm going to be on my own. Did everything I needed to do, kind of taking charge of all that planning stuff and making sure it was all checked out. And I got all some support materials, and I knew I was going to be snorkeling and everything. So I got, okay, I don't want to be out there by myself. So I got like this floating pack that you could both like put your keys and everything in, and it would float and you could hang on to it, and just trying to do all the things to make sure I was safe. Mm-hmm. And then on the way down, I was in a car accident. In Tucson, but I looked at the car, and both the other driver and I were okay. Her front bumper came off and my back one did, and we got them both sort of on again. And I went and I thought, okay, I'd call the insurance place, and but then I thought, I'm not going to stay in Tucson. I'm 6 hours from where I want to go in Mexico. And I remember being out walking that there was a CVS on the corner. And I remembered from doing school projects with my kids that they sell colored duct tape. And so I went up there and I got a roll of white duct tape because I'm fancy that way, because I wanted it to match my white car. And I taped that thing back on, and that duct tape held it the 700 or miles down to San Carlos, and then 2,000 miles back to my home. And then I'm like, well, I'm not going to get this fixed in the middle of winter. And so it held on for a long time. And it was, so it's like you kind of, and now it's so funny, just this, within the last week or so, a neighbor, this guy came over and said, hey, Joan, do you have any jumper cables? And I said, well, I've got something better, because one of the things I bought was this car charger thing.
I have one too.
Yes. So you can jump a car. You don't need two cars to jump, and it has an inflator thing and all of that. And he was like, wow, that's so now it's turned, and that was all my husband's kind of thing. And so I, through necessity, you kind of become that person who is a little more resourceful or whatever. And so that was one form of reinvention there.
Yeah, I was going to mention widowhood too. In 2015, my husband died, my mother died, and my sister died within 3 months of each other.
Yeah.
It was a brutal year.
Yeah.
I packed up everything in my house and moved to Key West. That's how I do.
Yeah.
That's what David and I had always wanted to do. So by God, I was going to do it anyway. And I did. And it was wonderful. But I went from a ranch style. I raised gypsy cobs on a ranch. I went from horses and stuff to beach. It was a huge reinvention. And now I'm ready to go back to the country. I moved out of Key West. I'm doing another reinvention of myself, and have left Key West, and I am on my way, I think, to New Mexico, hopefully in the next couple of months. So we'll see.
So do you think it gets easier the more times you do it?
Yes.
Like big taking up. Yeah. I think so.
I do. Don't you guys?
Yeah.
I think it gets a bit easier.
Once you get that confidence. By the way, has anybody mentioned us all reinventing ourselves as psychic? You already talked about that.
Gary did. Yeah. It was huge. Like COVID did that for how many of us that we really hard dived into spirituality.
Right.
It's another reinvention, a huge reinvention for hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, I suppose.
Yeah. So I think all these reinventions that we've been discussing have prepared us for our journey into psychic mediumship and reading
Yeah.
Akashic records. And wow.
God,
Great.
I'm lucky.
And I'd kind of like to encourage people to look at smaller things. It should be in tune enough with yourself to think, I don't want to have to pick up and move or change jobs or something, but is there a small way that I could kind of get myself more in alignment with who I really want to be? And I've just realized in the past 6 months or so, I have to reinvent the way I do holidays because I used to have the big table with 14 people
Yeah.
around it. And now this Christmas, I was going to have there were going to be 4 of us. And one of them couldn't make it that day. And I heard about it just that morning. And then the other one had gotten food poisoning the night before. So I had 2 people come over and they only stayed for about an hour or so. And I thought, this isn't working. I need to reinvent holidays.
That's very true.
Yeah. And the other one, and I thought about, okay, so that's something that came from a more negative experience. We have to do this differently. And then I was thinking about, well, what are the things I really miss that I used to do and would like to have that more in my life? And I thought about that big table and having a bunch of people around it when some friends who had kids the same age, we'd all get together and we'd trade off every other Friday. And they'd cook for the whole gang one Friday and then the
How
next one was
fun.
mine. And it
Right.
was so fun. And the kids kind of grew up together and all of that. And I thought, well, they're gone and the kids are gone and all of that. But I'm going to invite some neighbors over and see if we can start, maybe not every Friday, but to do something like that, to take something that was fun and see if we can reinvent it in a new way and build community and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, can I just, I want to put this up real quick. I love this. I don't know how to say that word. Given wings. So happy this came up in my feed, reinventing ourselves. Exactly the messages I've been receiving. There are no accidents.
Mm.
I love that. You're absolutely
Beautiful.
right.
Yeah. So maybe we should take a look at the PowerPoint.
Okay, let me find it again. Okay, here we go.
Let's see. Let's go back one. Or have we already done this one?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did this one.
Okay, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
You were right. I
There's
was
no
wrong.
reason not to redo it because that's showing how to do it, sorta.
Yeah. Our shedding old habits, driven by personal growth, evolving to realign with your true values or ambitions. And now you were right. Let's go on to the next one. And so here's the key steps on how to do this is to reflect on values and passions. Identify what excites you and what matters most.
Yeah.
So if it's, if it is doing the psychic thing, or if it's what matters most to your family, or, whatever it is, think about those things and examine your past experiences, learning from moments of fulfillment and dissatisfaction. And I think I gave an example of that. It's like, okay, I don't want to do holidays the way you used to do. So that wasn't great. So let's do it differently. And then for me, the fulfillment thing was my story about how cool it was when I got that feedback from that one reading. And it's like, yes, I want more of that, and to go after it. And then consider your strengths and skills and pursue areas that are aligned with your natural talents. So things like, think about the things that you do and you really love, and you sort of like time goes by so quickly when you're doing them, and see if
Exactly.
that's something that you could pursue. And let's see the next slide. So here's some ways to kind of work that into your life. Trying new things, experimenting with different activities or careers. I experimented with doing the job at the nonprofit in retirement, and it worked for a while, but not so good. And visualize your ideal life. Imagine where you want to be and how you want to feel. And sometimes you might not even know where you want to be, but I've try to emphasize, how do you want to feel whenever this change or whatever it is happens? Like going for joy. I want more joy in my life. I want more community in my life, and how that would make you feel. And then that kind of opens up some ideas and some pathways. So you'll be surprised that opportunities will present themselves to you. And definitely trust your gut and your inner voice for guidance. And the more you do that, the less you'll have your equivalent of the dead birds. So really listen and heed the.
I just love you got dead birds.
I know, dead birds, and if you don't listen, they'll come more often, or they'll nudge you a little harder. So be open.
I found that it keeps coming back at you until you get it.
Exactly.
Keep knocking on the door till you figure it out. Yeah.
Yes. And so, are there people in the chat who have had? Oh yeah. Oh, and overall, be patient with the process. It's an ongoing journey of self-discovery. So don't feel like you have to just transform yourself in a day or something, and give yourself space to grow, knowing that your desires and will evolve over time. So if you've made changes and you're aligned for now, well, then something else happens and it might need to change again. And it's definitely okay not to have everything figured out immediately. So cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. We got a couple of questions or comments I thought I'd raise. Oh, I love the lion. And thank you for giving Wings for telling me how to say it. Lisa says, I'm still trying to reinvent myself with MS and trying to get more in touch with my gifts. That's hard when you have a chronic disease, for sure.
Yeah.
Craig Dixon said he got led to psychics on YouTube by Trump. I wanted to see what would happen. So in a weird way, I owe him a thank you. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I think all of us were kind of looking for something different back then.
Definitely.
Yeah, something different from the news. What's going on?
I had one other experience that was kind of a transformation and reinvention. This was in the early 90s, and my son was really little, and I was working, and it was just a busy life. And I remember it was Christmas Eve, and I was, husband and son were asleep, and I was staying up late, putting the last touches of, all the Christmas wrappings on and getting everything ready. And then I thought, well, I'm going to go to midnight mass because it was getting that late. And there's a church just right across the alley from me. So I went, and I thought, again, I was thinking, I want more joy in my life. And I wasn't really sure, because life was great. I've got this baby and this, and a job and a husband and all of that. But it just seemed like a lot of work. And I wanted something more exciting and fun, and that would be personally fulfilling. And that night, it was great service. Nobody puts on pomp and ceremony like the Catholic Church and all of that.
That's sure true.
And joy to the world. So I'm walking home, and everything is really high vibe from that service. And I got this idea to write a book about angels, and I did it. I thought, well, this is unlike anything I'd ever done before, because my work was very business oriented and everything. And I thought, okay, I don't know how this is going to happen. Where's the money going to come from? Where's the time going to come from? And all of that. But somehow it all worked out. And it probably took 1.5 or 2 years to get it done.
Wow.
But I did it.
Cool, though.
I roped in my husband to take the photographs for it, and it was a regional bestseller.
Wow.
But then as soon as that was over, it was like everything, all these synchronicities coming together. And then it was like, great, we needed you for that. Now you're on to other things. And then, I tried it. Then it stopped as quickly as it had started, and I had to start over again and say, okay, now what's next now? So it's a roller coaster, but it can be a fun ride.
Heather sends her apologies. They've got an outage.
Oh dear.
It won't be fixed till 5 our time. So she says, please give everyone my apologies and love.
Okay.
I did happen to notice Pink Lady 45. Joan, this is a great question for you. How can I find someone who can help me with my book?
You know, what my knowledge is so old. I don't think it was it
You're
was
rusty?
it was all pre-internet. But I would say get on some message boards, maybe go to
Yes.
Reddit or things like that. There is also, as far as the one thing I would recommend is to get a good editor. And
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but there's a association of editors, freelance editors that are out there who can do book editing. But yeah,
That's cool.
somebody who really knows how to shape them and all of that. So yeah,
Keep
it's fun.
searching. Keep searching.
Yep.
Hay House. Hay House is a
Oh, yeah,
good
Hay
place
House.
to connect. If you have interest in writing something involving spirituality, Hay House is an excellent publisher, and then they would offer you help. I know they have classes for young authors, so check into that.
Yeah, that's a great
Oh,
idea.
Jen, I love this. I guess I always looked at life in its entirety. You all have helped me look at it in reinventing shifts. It's given me a more positive outlook. I felt the same way.
Mhm.
I have kind of done the same thing, but in lots of different industries. And I always kind of felt like a failure because back in the day, you're supposed to get a job in the same industry and just pursue it forever. And now in my adage here, it's I can see where working in multiple different industries and businesses and everything, you learn something new every day from all of them. And now I can look back and see, oh, wow, that's really made me a more interesting person. And if I had a better memory, I'd be great at, trivia or something, because I know a lot about a lot. I'm definitely,
A little about a lot.
I'm an inch deep and just miles wide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's and all it takes is just looking at it in a different
Yeah.
way.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Expanding associations is really great too. Like you mentioned trivia. I think that we have a lot of places here, restaurants and wine bars. They have trivia contests and classes, fun
I
things to get out.
remember going to bars that had that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to get
Trivia
drunk.
night. I was into
Trivia
throwing
nights fun.
darts. I was a
Yeah.
dart person and a pool person.
I find myself being a Libra, I need that in my life. I need to meet new people, make new acquaintances, associations, and often that leads to that's how I ended up singing in a band. And that's how I ended up getting into professional photography. And so that's an important thing. Don't be shy, and don't be afraid to be the new guy in the group either. That's it's fun.
And to try new things.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I would start a new job, it would take me about a year to get comfortable in the job. I always hated it when I first got there. It's like, what have I done for about 5 minutes? But then you get used to it. But it would take me a good year to feel comfortable with the people around me and all of that. Because you are reinventing yourself every time you get a new job.
Yeah.
It's hard. I love being retired.
That's a reinvention too, going
Yes.
It
from
is.
like job to job, but then like from individual contributor to a supervisor or a boss, and that's
More
quite a
reinvention.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all kinds of things.
I wanted to point out something that Jill Sinanan said. She said, could you imagine living alone, parents, past siblings, and in a foreign country, just me and my spirit guides?
Oh,
Wow.
Jill,
That's
I
hard.
can imagine that.
wow.
I didn't have necessarily all the death around me, but I've had to do that where I suddenly, in the midst of this reinvention, had to go to Japan for a few months and be alone with nobody to speak English with. So just me and my spirit guides. I have to tell you, that's a quick way to start really getting in touch with that psychic side.
Yeah.
Being alone really helps get that stuff rolling. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I know that sometimes when I'm doing readings and the loved ones come through, and it's a spouse that had passed, and what the love, because I get my cues and I get my information from the other side, and they say that to give yourself time to be gentle with yourself, because you are that your whole identity has changed when this loved one has passed away, that your whole you, because we see our identity reflected to us in the eyes of our mother first, and then our siblings, and then our friends. So when we look at our mother, she's reflecting back to us what she sees, and that is our identity, what we feel from people looking back at us. When that main person or our spouse passes away, we are searching and wondering, who am
Yeah.
I? Where is my reflection?
Lay down.
And to be in a spiritual journey to find out who we truly are, who are our soul's vibration, who we authentically are, beyond the ego in a spiritual manner, is truly a spiritual journey, and it
Yes.
encourages us and nudges us into this direction. But it's something that I never actually realized, that the person who had lost the loved one, their whole identity is shattered. They have no, that their place in the world is no longer identified for them. And it's not only the loss of the love, but the identity. They would have to rebuild themselves and find new reflections around them. And
Right.
it was
Wow, Jean.
profound. It was, mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Pretty deep.
Excellent. Yeah.
that's very deep. I
Mhm.
hadn't thought about it in that way.
Mhm.
Wow. But you're right, just come as a widow. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And losing my father was probably the hardest because it was before I was into spirituality, and the loss was so much heavier than even when I lost David, because I knew I would speak to him on the other side. I knew there wasn't anything such thing as death. So although I miss him and part of my identity was gone, absolutely, it wasn't the same as before spirituality, when you just all you feel is that loss and no hope, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Mhm.
It's compounded and so
Yeah.
very multifaceted, and it is a huge aspect of, losing someone. And I didn't know that. I never, but I learned that through being a medium and bringing through the
Mhm.
messages and seeing them see their loved one on the other side. And they showed me she doesn't know who she is anymore without me, and
Wow.
it was a really profound.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is profound, and
Mm.
isn't it wonderful for you out there in chat that maybe haven't developed your gifts like these ladies here? It's a wonderful lesson that we learn. We're always learning as well as
Yes.
helping. Every time we read you, every time we connect to spirit, we're learning new stuff.
Mhm.
There's no end to it. There's
Yeah.
no end to learning.
I was just on a much less profound point. Another way of having to redefine yourself or reinvent yourself is as you get older, there's some things you can't do anymore. And I think one of the hardest things for me to give up was, I used to be a runner and then got injured. And it was like, you can make a whole life out of running because you're planning
Sure.
to run and then you run it and then recovering and then you chart it and all of this stuff. And all marking your calendar for training for this race or that race or whatever. And then all of a sudden it went away. And that
Wow.
one was, it surprised me at how, and because I wasn't that great a runner or anything, but it really, really left a big gaping hole. And then,
Mhm.
I
if you
can
have to
imagine.
give up skiing or biking or just from injuries and all of that, it's nothing compared to what people go through who have,
Oh,
serious disabilities or something like that. But yeah, you have to reinvent yourself not just the physical part, but okay, who am I this time? Who am I now? And
Yeah.
find a different way, as Jean was saying, how do I see myself without this person or this thing or this activity and everything?
Right. I've been experiencing that. Oh, snowboarding, man, every weekend. That was a huge
Yes.
part of our lives. Huge. And I live by this mountain. I have to drive by and go,
That sucks, doesn't it?
it does. But, we just decided, well, we're just going to have to do cross country or, because you fall slower. You can catch yourself and things like snowshoeing, and we go support our grandkids who are racing and ski team and all that. But I honestly still have huge aches about that. And I just have to end that with a prayer saying, thank you. I had that experience. Thank you that I got to do that.
Yeah.
And find something else.
Have you found anything else that's bringing you that kind of joy? Have you been able to find something that you can replace that with?
I love cross country. I love and that's the whole thing, the mountain's exciting because it's a whole culture, after you ski, you go down, you hang out, all your friends are there. But there's a wonderful solace that comes from peace that comes from the woods, just being in the woods with my dogs. That's really cool. And then I've expanded into other things, film. We go to this film festival thing where we go see films every month and people talk about it. I mean, you just have to kind of gravitate to what your guides, and they will, if you ask them, they will show you, and then not be afraid. Don't be afraid. And that's one thing you can learn when you have something taken away from you. Put your hand on your heart and one on your tummy. And just say, I know who I am. And then just go through your mind and say, I'm creative. I'm funny. I'm interested. I love learning. I love expanding, and I love reinventing myself. It's exciting.
Yeah,
it is actually.
Yeah.
One of my big reinventions was the YouTube channel. I always sat up watching other people and, no, we want you to do that. And I'm like, no flipping way am I getting on YouTube. No way. I fought it for a good 18 months. Wow. And now I'm like, what was the deal? It's wonderful. I have met so many fantastic people. It's become my community. Yeah. I find joy. I love researching our shows. I love being with you ladies and all of the people that we guess. I love everything about it. Who knew? Who knew?
Connection to the things that bring us joy, the things that bring us closer to our true vibration, our true essence, and coming back to who we truly are. Right. It's and we're meant to enjoy this life, everybody. It is hard, but we're meant to enjoy the experience and try not to. And they always say, you humans take things so seriously. We carry all of these burdens. We blame everything on ourselves. And they always say, lighten up and have fun.
Yeah, that's what mine say.
And it's important to find what it is that you do connect with so that you can find a new identity or a new experience for yourself. It's not easy. It is a difficult process. It is the unknown. We all empathize with you because of the changes that we've all experienced. But it's important to remember that with each challenge that we overcome, we become stronger and more confident and more sort of like self-empowered. We find our own empowerment.
And more empathic, understanding what other people are going through a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said. All of these experiences that we just described help us to have empathy and understanding. And that's another thing, a fun way to reinvent yourself is help somebody else who's gone through what you've gone through as much as you can.
Oh, yeah.
In a word, it would be wisdom.
Yeah.
There you go.
The wisdom circle.
Yeah.
And Jean brought us full circle.
Fantastic.
And we're no different than any of you watching later or here in the chat. Just because our faces are up here, we're all equals. I know that you all have experienced this. You all have your own experiences and trials and tribulations and reinventions. And we're all here together supporting each other. So we appreciate your support, and we're here as equals for sure. It's hard to, you guys look and you say, oh, well, they have it all together, or they know. No, we were one of you before.
Yep. I was definitely, I was a lurker. I lurked for probably a year before I ever even said anything in a chat room. I was so intimidated by the knowledge in the chat room.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Yeah.
And we're all very unique, and that's one thing that we can really take a great hope and joy in, that you're absolutely a unique soul here to have this planetary experience. It's amazing. And it is supposed to be fun. It is supposed to be an adventure, you know. So go out and push those buttons a little bit.
Yeah.
It's all very complimentary, because we all do something a little bit different. We all offer something a little bit different. And the days where you said, I want to be just like them, or I want to be like the girl in the magazine, or I want to be like, what's most important is being yourself, you know, being ourselves, and enjoying that, and being proud, or, you know, being confident in that. Yeah, we need to stick together and stay connected and support one another. And this, you know, we always say it, the community here is a beautiful example of what, you know, humanity is moving into, the collaboration and the support of nature. It's beautiful to be a part of and to learn. I've grown from being in this community for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bora Bora, asking people
Joan,
to
this
comment
was
after the
a
show.
great subject, and really beautiful jumping off point, you know, to dive into these discussions. It's really important.
Yeah.
And the chat seems to have loved what we've talked about and shared what they've been going through. Thank you, chat room. I love that.
And Amanda says we're all works in progress.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
We are indeed.
And
great subject, Joan. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I made it. I'm so glad I made it.
You made it, and Heather got bumped. I don't know what these days, electronics.
Well, mine was snow. We had an outage last night because of snow, and I should have turned my computer on earlier.
How many inches did you get last night?
Oh, last night we got about 8, but total in the last few days, we've gotten well over 1 foot.
Wow.
So I'm so grateful. I prayed every day during January, please, God, please. You know, it's essential for us to get moisture. So answered prayer. Prayer works.
We need moisture here too. I can't believe how low the Horsetooth Reservoir is. It is just, it's probably 30 feet low.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than that. But it comes from the runoff. It fills with the runoff and then gets drained in the summertime.
Yeah.
So Lisa wants to know, she said, I'm worried if I'm still on my path. Who do you seek out to make sure you're still on your path? I think that each morning, as long as your eyes open, you're on your path.
It's that simple.
If you're not, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah. I was going to say, you know, one of the questions you can ask when you're reading Akashic Records is, am I still on my path? So I'm going to tell everybody a secret that in time and time again, whenever I look at the path, when I'm in the Akashic Records, you can't really get off your path. I mean, that's the secret. If you manage to get off, they will nudge you back.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True. We're all on it, whether we believe it or not.
Yeah.
But I think that's also another good reminder about, don't wait until you're getting nudged or whatever. Think about, you know, how can I make this even more fun or better or whatever?
Yeah.
And then just start envisioning those things, whether it is I want to have more people in my life or more joy in my life or whatever. And then things will present themselves as little projects
Mhm.
to work on and you won't
True.
know. Yeah. So we're always on our path, but you can make the path more. Oh, I just saw in my head. You can be just walking down the path, or you can be walking down and juggling and making it a little more interesting or something.
That's cute. I love that.
Wow.
Oh, this was such a great
like
subject. Thanks, Joan.
Thanks,
Really loved it.
everyone. This was a more collaborative one, and
I like
really
the
had great
collaborative
ideas.
ones. Yeah, it
Great.
was good. Well, ladies, it's almost time, but I want to know who's doing what when so the people out in the chat can see where to catch you next. Like I said, all your information is in the description of this video with websites, phone numbers, emails, whatever you need to catch any one of these wonderful psychic medium, Akashic record readers, spirit navigators, whatever you want to call us. These ladies are the bomb, and I highly recommend them if you have any questions. Now, we are not going to have a show tomorrow. We normally have a show at 8 o'clock on Tuesdays on the Crone Zone. I am going to be in New Mexico with our friend Juno Sphere.
Oh,
Yeah.
We
cool.
are headed out to Santa Fe tomorrow morning. So we are so excited about the next 4 days. Playing around Santa Fe. Going to the
Oh, talk to me after the show. I got some connections.
All right, my love.
I'll show you a good time.
That's fantastic. So we're not having anything on Tuesday. We will be back on Saturday with Valerie, and I think it's a full moon in Leo. Not positive, but she
that'll
will
be
be
good.
back on Saturday evening at 8 to talk about that. So let me go over to Pure Visionary. Terry Lee, when's your next show?
My next show will be this Wednesday, and that's
So
at
every Wednesday, right?
5 Eastern and 2 Pacific, and that'll be a solo read. And I also have a special right now for the month of February for private readings, 20% off if you type in the box that says codes and passes. Just choose love, all caps, all one word. Choose love. You get 20% off.
Cool.
And then also we're going to have a very special, I want to mention it ahead of time, Psychic Triad on Valentine's Day.
Oh,
It's going to be all about love, y'all. So
good.
please be sure and watch our community pages so that I guess they're called posts now. I keep calling them community pages. But it's called
When I was on this morning, mine was still community page. I don't know where I am, but it's strange it didn't say post.
So that's it for me, and thank you so much. Appreciate that. Oh, and my website is on the link as Priscilla said, but it's purevisionarypsychic.com.
Thank you, Terry Lee. What about you, Terry Suzuki?
Well, I have a new series, not a series because it doesn't happen all that often, but Jean and I she's going to interview me so I can tell the rest of the story. So a lot of times we go out to these psychic fairs and we do stuff, we read people, but we don't often get the rest of the story. Like what happened?
Yes.
So
How exciting. So
really
you're doing a
good
series on what happened after read. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I
But
can't wait to see that.
I don't have a ton of them. That's why I kind of hesitate to say it's a series because that doesn't happen
good.
all that
You
often.
will.
But
I want a series
this
on
is
your revamping the house in Japan personally,
right. Well, I've
and
been
your
trying to get that.
experiences there.
But this time it's going to be fun because it was a woman who came to be read, and the angels stepped in and did a communication healing.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
And she just came to my last alchemy fair and sat down for another reading.
Oh.
And so if you are worried about being a caregiver to someone and how the burden of it, this might be a good one to watch because they gave her some information and some healing. So
Oh, that's really interesting.
yeah.
And when are you doing this?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. But we don't know. We're not going live necessarily with it.
That's
So we'll just see.
okay.
Yeah.
It'll be
Well,
recorded,
that
so we'll post it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
is
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
great.
then after that, the next thing coming up is if you're in Bellevue, Washington, I will be there on February 15th and 16th at the local Hilton.
Ooh.
So
What about you, Jean?
I love that. I think I think it's if you would do lives and just announcing where you are every weekend, that would be so much fun. Just do a little announcement, a little live show so they know where
Yeah.
you are. That's
yeah.
so much fun. And so tomorrow I'll be on with Wisdom Seeker Joan and Gerald from Tarot Stash. We're doing readings tomorrow at 2 Eastern, which is 11 Pacific. And then on
Look at
Friday,
you go with the times like you can do it. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, she
Well,
We all
does.
get so mixed up in times. The way she reeled that off. Ooh, I'm impressed.
time zone math is not my strong point.
Oh, mine either.
No matter how good you think you are, it always gets you because you're looking at two different things. And and then on Friday, I'll be on a guest on a very special show. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I'll be a guest on the Crone Zone. That's
Yay.
Friday at 4:30 Eastern, and that's 1:30 Pacific. I only say the ends, and if you're in between, you can add it in.
How about you, Joan?
Well, I will, as Jean said, I'll be on with Jean and Gerald tomorrow for Enlightened Insights. And that's, I don't know if I'm going to be on with Allie on Thursday for a meeting with the mediums yet. But I did want to say to Terry Suzuki, Terry told me, and I won't give it away, but one of your, the rest of the stories, a week or two ago. And last week when I was at a fair, after I'd read for this woman, her situation coordinated was very similar to the person that you had read. And so I was able to tell her that story to reinforce what Spirit said
Cool.
about
Beautiful.
a similar situation. So it's just this sharing of information helps people all over the place. So thank you very much for that. And I'm thrilled that you're going to do that series.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Me too. I'm excited about that. It'll be fun. Well, ladies, thank you again. Our time is up. And next month, we will have Terry Suzuki, and you're going to talk about ways to use the Akashic Records, correct?
Yay.
Because there's lots of different ways, not just looking at past lives.
I know.
That's almost boring.
Well, that'll be interesting to see because I know lots of people that love these past life information. Yeah, that'll be fun. All right. Well, thank you, ladies. I love you all. I'm so glad you're here. Remember, nowadays, after the stream, we can come back, but it just knocks us off while that song is on or our outro is on. So thanks again, everyone. Go out, shine your light, spread your love, stay in your heart space. It's rough out there. We love you.
Yes, we
Take care.
do. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.